By default, Shift-B quick stores things in your backpack, and quick takes things out of your backpack, and it always goes from bottom to top, so if I swap hands and press Shift-B again, I take the box out. Alternatively, Shift-E will store things to your belt, and the same thing, it goes from bottom to top. So organizing these by order of most important is, well, important. Control left click will let you drag objects, and control right click alternatively will let you push objects, and as you can see, you can push 360 degrees around you. Certain things are a lot easier to push than others. Many objects in the game can be rotated, and to rotate an object, you just right click it, hover over its name, come over here, and there is a rotate option. When crafting an object, you can simply middle mouse to rotate the direction the ghost will face, so you don't have to rotate it later. Have you ever been on station and noticed that the Space Station 14 sign isn't facing the right direction, or that these signs are clipping inside of each other? To fix that, simply press numpad 8 to orient your camera to the default position of whatever grid you are standing on. You can also press 7 to rotate, and 9 to rotate. You can press numpad 6 to zoom in, and press numpad 4 to zoom out, and 5 resets you to the default zoom. Emergency EVA suits, which are always found in emergency O2 closets, are spacefaring, but with a catch. They are not insulated, so if you're ever in a space environment, like such as being on station, you'll be fine. But if you are to enter into space, you'll also be fine. But if you walk over a space tile, like so, or you just spend too much time out in space in general, you will start getting cold. And the emergency EVA suit is really not good for lizards because lizards take significantly more cold damage and take it quicker because they have different temperature thresholds. But yeah, emergency EVA suits are only good for emergencies, and they are not really meant for going out into space with them. If you're ever to lose your backpack, you can always still put full oxygen tanks onto your back slot, and there's even a sprite for it. Admittedly, I didn't know you could do this until very recently, and there are definitely times where like you'll die and get revived and not have a backpack, but you still need to wear your oxygen. So yeah, just strap it to your back. You can instantly transfer all the contents from one bag to the contents of another bag if you simply just pick up the bag, right-click the bag, and transfer the contents. And it'll do it basically instantaneously, but as you can see obviously here, the backpack I was transferring into is smaller, so it doesn't transfer everything, but if I were to transfer the backpack back into the duffel, it is pretty much, yeah, instantaneous and saves you a lot of clicking. Thank you, Scarlet. I did not know this one until yesterday. You can have all your inventory UIs open at once, which you probably have already seen in this video. If your bag slot ever gets too large to the point where you have to scroll, you can always enlarge the windows in order to see them at all times, and depending on the type of screen you have and how your viewport's set up, it's pretty common that people will just drag their bag slots over to the side, so you can always have your bag open and be more aware of what you have on you at any time. There are many things in the world you can interact with just by pressing E. So if I walk up to this vending machine, I can press E to open up its UI, I can press E on this piece of paper to read it, I can press E on this burn treatment kit to open it, I can press E on this locker to open it. I can press E on this door to open it. There's a lot of things you can do with E that alternatively a click will do. So even if both of my hands are taken, I can still press E to open a door. You don't have to drop something on the ground and click a door to open it. Alt-click works as an alternative interaction with objects. So like if I alt-click this gun on the ground, I can rip the magazine out of it, and that's also true if I do it in my inventory. If you alt-click your PDA, you'll pull the ID straight out of it. If you alt-click on a table, you'll jump onto it. Even if it doesn't quite look like you're on it, you put yourself on the same level as the table. And there are other alt-click functionalities, but these are definitely the most common, is to like pull something out of a container and to interact with jumping on tables. Pressing Z with an object in your hand will basically activate the item or just do a primary function. So for example, for a soda can, you'll open it, and then if you press it again, you'll drink it. And for other things like Medipens, if you press Z, it'll just automatically inject yourself. There's a bunch of other examples, but I had no idea that Z was used to even do anything for quite a while. Emergency Medipens, which are pens that spawn inside your emergency survival box, which every single person on the station has, are great at stabilizing people in critical condition. It may not always bring them back from critical state, but what it does is it helps remove air loss, so if they're in critical state, they'll basically be breathing, And what it also does is it heals damage, at least minor amounts. If somebody only just took enough damage to reach a critical state, there's a chance that you could bring them out of a critical state, like in this example here. But just as a note, it is always worth using an emergency pen on somebody you're trying to prevent from slipping into death. The Space Medipen is a Medipen that is designed to, well, let you survive space. So out here, I'm obviously in a 0 atmosphere environment and taking pressure damage, but if I just inject myself, you will be able to ignore that pressure damage for at least 30 seconds. Budget insulated gloves upon spawning have a chance of either being insulated gloves, or gloves that make you actually take more damage to shocks, and the easiest way to test if a glove is insulated, simply put it on, and I would punch a low voltage wire. If you punch a wire just like so, and nothing happens to you, congrats, you have a real pair of insulateds. If you punch a wire, and you get shocked, they are not real insulateds, and they are useless. But punching a low voltage wire is one of the safest ways to test it because it doesn't cause station damage, and at worst, you'll take a decent portion of damage, but if you're healthy, you will never crit yourself. Don't punch a high voltage. After you get a free pair of insulated gloves, a screwdriver and wire cutter is all you need to actually be able to hack lower access doors. So you just need a screwdriver to open, and obviously a multi-tool would be preferable here, but multi-tools are hard to get, and you just have to snip both the power wires in order to succeed in hacking a door. But the problem is if you accidentally snip the bolt wire, you're screwed and you won't be able to open the door without a multi-tool. But the thing is, though, is that doors share the same wires across the station. So now, if I want to get this door open, I could just snip everything except the fourth wire, and we're good to go. The door is good to open, and yeah, you would still need a crowbar to open it, so I guess you still need a crowbar as well. But with these 3 tools and a pair of good budget insulated gloves, doors are no longer an obstacle to you. If you've ever been in a situation where you just got stabbed or shot, and you're not able to quite make it to medical, say like it's a nuki round or something, a decent way to actually heal yourself is to break a light, take the light bulb out, and throw the light bulb at a wall. It's not guaranteed, but there is a chance that when you break the light, you'll get a glass shard, and with your glass shard, you can cut up unneeded parts of clothing. And if you really, really have to, say you're in a state where you did just get shot, you're not doing so hot, I would take your jumpsuit off and cut it up. And why you should do that is because jumpsuits and other clothing items will yield cloth. And inside your jumpsuit, there's 3 pieces of cloth. And if you were to cut up your shoes as well, you get 4 pieces of cloth. And with that, you can craft gauze in the G menu. And each gauze heals 10 piercing and 5 slash per use. This takes a decent bit of time to craft, so this should really only be done in absolute emergencies. But it is a way to survive in more dire situations, especially if you just aren't able to find meds. This one's probably a little bit more advanced, but can be very useful. Whatever docks that the arrival shuttle docks at are always all access, so even without a PDA, you can always use these to access space. This is definitely more useful for traders than normal crew members, but there have been times where I just wanted to get out into space, but I didn't want to get the access for it. So this is a way to do it. You can always just go to wherever arrivals docks. Tiny fans, even if they are completely surrounded by space, will always keep you protected from space. So if I step out here, I am taking pressure damage. I step in the tiny fan, I am fine. Tiny fans aren't super common, but they're normally found at evac arrivals, sometimes in cargo, and they're always found on the emergency shuttle. And there are definitely times where the emergency shuttle walls get blown open, and there is nowhere really good to stand, so it is worth trying to find a tiny fan to stand in if you do not have an EVA suit. There's a specific threshold of speed to be at in order to not slip on more common things like coffee spills, for example. If you are moving at full speed, you will slip, and like a bar of soap, you'll slip. If you get an EVA suit, which slows you down by 20%, you still slip on bars of soap. But if you hit the 25% movement speed threshold, like something like a security hard suit, you can move full speed in your hard suit over soap and like liquid spills, but it will not save you from lube. And even with something as slow as a 50% movement speed loss and walking, you will still slip on space lube. So 25% movement speed reduction is about where you want to be in order to not slip on common slippable objects. But obviously, losing that much speed to just not slip doesn't really matter because you can just always walk to get over the more common slippery surfaces. Shoving is a rather useful tool in PvE. In order to shove, you simply just have to have hard mode on, have nothing in your hands, and right-click. Mobs like aberrant flesh, which are pretty common, can be shoved over in a singular click, and you can also shove over mice and such with a singular click. Problem is, though, you actually have to be able to see them, so like if they're hiding under like a table, it might be kind of difficult to deal with them. But for mobs like aberrant flesh and like, say like this mouse, you will one-click shove them over, which makes them really easy to kill. And there are other mobs like angry slimes that you can also shove over, even if it's not apparent, which, as a human with full health and no armor, it takes 2 clicks to shove them over. But that just may be what you have to do in order to escape. So, for example, this slime's chasing me. 2 clicks, I shove it over, and I am home free. Against players, like humanoid players, shoving is not nearly as effective, but it can still be used if you know what you're doing. If you press E while hovering over someone, you'll instantly open up the strip menu on them, so you don't have to take the time to either drag them onto you, or right-click and do the strip menu, or shift-click and do the strip menu. Pressing E is certainly the fastest way to strip someone. While I'm here, shift-clicking somebody and clicking the heart icon can tell you everything about their current health status. For example, taking 30 damage of a specific type, for like blunt, for example, will say they have minor contusions, and the message is dynamic depending on the types of damage they have and how much damage they have. Also, if you shift-click somebody and click the person icon, it'll tell you whose ID they have equipped at the moment, so you can use this to figure out if somebody stole an ID, or figure out who their job truly is, if like their clothing's different. It is rather useful. And you can always double-check somebody's identity by simply going to your PDA, going to the Programs tab, and clicking Crew Manifest, and it'll show you everyone who appears on the station. The reason why there's no one here is because, well, I'm technically not on the station. I spawned myself in, so I never arrived. The last thing I'll cover is in Space Station 14, there are currently 2 types of servers. There are LRP servers, which just stand for low roleplay or light roleplay. I don't really know if there's an official one. I always just say low. They have their own rules on upstream. I don't know if there's other downstream low roleplay servers. I'm not really informed on that. But they really just expect you to at least act like a human being and try to stay in your lane, but it's not required. And MRP is pretty much, yes, act like you are a human being in the space station, do your job, stick to your job, but there's still obviously room for antics and gimmicks and stuff, but it's a little more serious is probably a decent way to describe MRP. People are more willing to talk to you, they're more willing to write out longer sentences, but there's typically less mechanical gameplay going on in MRP. There's a lot more things are done for a reason, where LRP, it's things just kind of happen, and there's way more going on than that. They have different roles, different cultures. I can't explain server culture in a video, but I'm sure there's other awesome tips and tricks I just couldn't think of at the time of making this. I spent an hour or so just thinking of things to include. Just please leave in the comments things that you think would have been useful, or things that you think people ought to know, or things you wish you knew earlier. If there's enough of them, I'll just make another video. It's not hard to do, but this is what I got for now.